Hello everybody, I'm Cassidy, I'm the HippieCatholic. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please subscribe to be part of the conversation. So a recent poll came out, I would say a couple months ago, that said that as many as 70% of Catholics do not believe in the true presence of the Eucharist. And that is the core Catholic doctrine. I guess it seems that Catholic schools were more worried about preventing teen pregnancies and firing queer staff that they kind of forgot to teach about the true presence of the Eucharist. Yeah, am I salty about it? Yeah, totally I am. Why are Catholic institutions moving away from focusing on core spiritual doctrines like the Eucharist in favor of pushing conservative political values? Secularization. It's basically a cultural shift that people as a society become less concerned with the supernatural or religious matters. Political parties have noticed this trend too. I'm specifically speaking about what's going on in America, just so that you international viewers know what I'm referring to. Pay attention to why many Catholics vote Republican. It often has nothing to do with the party's philosophy, which is a kind of a laissez-faire approach to economics. Basically, if you want to know the on-paper values of the Republican Party, it's less government equals more personal freedom. But that's not usually why Catholics vote Republican. They vote Republican because Republicans claim that they're pro-life. It all comes down to issues like abortion that get Catholics to vote. But the Republican Party works against most other Catholic values. For example, Catholicism has always had a strong stance against avarice, the sin of greed, and money lending. Everything the Republican Party encourages above all else. We see this opposition to these right-leaning ideals, especially in the earliest stages of capitalism. The Church's biblical basis to stand against avarice was found in Matthew 21:12 through 13. That was when Jesus entered the temple and chased out the money lenders with a whip. Those were the good old days, let me tell you. A common phrase that was tossed around was that money should not reproduce. Art pieces such as this depicted the downfall of greedy men. This one is called The Dance with Death. That sounds pretty metal. This illustration can be found on the walls of the Dominican Basilica of Basel, and it was commissioned in 1437 AD. And this poem that I'm about to read was written to accompany it in 1616 AD. Death says to the usurer, "I don't look at your gold and money, you usurer and godless man. Christ has taught you that a black death is your traveling companion." The usurer says, "I did not ask much of the teachings of Christ. My usury attracted me much more. Now all suffering is left behind. What avails my money scraping and skinning?" I hope you Catholic goth anti-avarice queens enjoyed that. The aesthetic of that picture is creepy and I am enjoying it very much. The vow of poverty came about as a sort of resistance to the rise of early-stage capitalism. Many Catholic monks traveled from town to town living off of donations from the community, carrying only the bare essentials. In this way, these traveling monks really mirror Buddhist monks as well, who have a very minimalistic approach to life. I just think it's kind of cool to see like intersectionality with religious practices, so yeah, let's keep going. But as capitalism rose, secularization rose with it. The people created a new god to worship made of gold. This is not only happening in Christianity. Capitalism has become entrenched with religious ceremonies of all different faiths. So you can order a Buddhist monk to perform funeral rites for a loved one over Amazon.com. Traditionally, this service would not be needed. That deceased individual would have a faith community at their own temple, and in the case of Christianity at least, a parishioner would ideally be baptized and buried by the same priest at the same church in the same community. As time goes on, and as capitalism and secularization continue to take hold, we see that this is not so anymore. You can take man out of the religion, but you cannot take religion out of the man. Humans are hardwired to worship. But we see that people do not always worship a deity. They can just as well worship things like money, sex, power, booze, the flying spaghetti monster, anything really, a coffee cup. And we see that these idols are placed in the temple of God. And with them, we see the attention of parishioners be taken up by the idols more so than God. Many go to church to simply feel good, or to listen to rock music, or to, you know, get coffee in the lobby. Not to say that those things are bad necessarily, because that would be very dualistic. We want to avoid dualistic thinking when we can. Well, there's nothing inherently wrong with having coffee in church. There is something deeply missing. As the importance of sacramentals fall away, something takes their place, not erasing the traditions altogether, but making them less important. As if they were fortune cookies you'd get at the bottom of a bag from Panda Express. The bread of life isn't the main course. Capitalism doesn't do away with religion. It repackages it as monks you can order on Amazon or in communion cups to go. That was like so cringy to say that. Here's like a clip of these communion cups to go. I feel bad because this lady genuinely does sound really excited, but here, you guys gotta experience this yourselves.
This may very well be one of the coolest things I've ever seen. As I was leaving church today, they gave us a little communion cup to go. And it's sealed and has the grape juice in it. And then it has your wafer right built in. And you pull back this part and your wafer comes out. Ta-da! Get your wafer out. And then you pull back this and drink your juice. So it's all in one. Pretty neat. They passed them out of church today, so communion to go.
All the Catholics watching this are probably hardcore cringing right now. For many, communion has become a superstitious novelty rather than the sacred and literal body of Christ. With the rise of secularization, less importance was placed on spiritual beliefs, thus less importance was placed on religious communities, which once were the foundation of human socialization. Socialization and community are extremely important to human beings' well-being. I was listening to a podcast one time, I can't remember what the name of it was, but there was a psychologist that was on there that said that having a community is more essential to your overall health than avoiding smoking and eating well. So that says like how important like having a community is, you know? And there's definitely a correlation between religious belief and community. As we see religion become less essential, we see the communities surrounding them dissipate, thus contributing to the epidemic of loneliness we are now seeing in Western society. Now, I've experienced this because, I mean, I'm kind of a quirky Catholic. I'm not always welcome in spaces, so it honestly does take a severe toll on my mental health. I've opened up to you guys about that before, and I know that many of you have confided in me and have told me that you have also been affected by the way your faith communities treat you. I also want to let you know, you're always welcome here. Even if you're between Catholic churches right now or Christian churches of any kind or whatever, you can find a spiritual space and community here. I know that it's virtual. I know that you're only seeing me through a screen, whether it be a laptop or a phone or what have you. You still have a spiritual space here and you still have a community here with me. I love you guys very much. So we're gonna beat the system together. The idolization of capitalism has consumed society. Religion remains as a way to sell products rather than to endorse itself. We see this in many new age spiritual lifestyle brands, that literally the spiritual practices are centered around buying crystals or yoga mats or incense or whatever. And that's the main spiritual practice, is purchasing these goods. Again, I'm not saying that buying these things in the name of spirituality is bad, but what I am saying is that it could become problematic when people feel like they need to buy a product in order to have a spiritual practice, you know? And as I mentioned before, humans are hardwired to worship. That still remains. Because of secularization, people are more likely to be devoted to other outside things rather than to the divine. People are more likely to compromise their religious beliefs in the name of their political standings. You'll often see rad trads and fundamentalist Christians both picketing side by side at a pride parade, because even though they disagree on core matters of faith, the afterlife, God, they hate gays and they want to, you know, squat up. We see this also with progressive Christianity as well. You'll see people of completely different faiths work together because they both share a political standing. Again, I want to encourage non-dualistic thinking. I'm not necessarily saying that like having alliances with other people of different beliefs is bad. I'm not saying that at all. This is a very welcoming environment for people of many faiths and stuff. I'm not trying to say that at all. What I am trying to say is that this is an example of how secularization has changed the way we view religion and like how much importance we place on religion, you know what I mean? As a society, we place more importance on political standing rather than on spiritual standing. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting to note. And religions have become breeding grounds to round up voters rather than to worship God. Republicans in office don't do any work to help prevent abortions. Instead, their policies cause more. The fight against politicized injustices is what keeps voters coming. If the problem of abortion was solved, where would Republicans' selling point be? Most Americans aren't billionaires. The key to a successful business is to keep people coming back for more. That's why coupons exist. It's not about solving the problem of abortion or receiving justice for women and the unborn. It's all in the name of mammon. I invite all of you guys to search out the spiritual, for products can only sustain us for so long. While there's nothing wrong with having things that make you happy. I love flower crowns, I love aesthetically pleasing things, or at least they're aesthetically pleasing to me, but at the same time, I think that we all need to kind of remember why we come to church and remember that we're here for God and that we are all searching for the divine. We all have a God-shaped hole in our hearts. The beauty of a church or any kind of building, you know, can be helpful in engaging the senses. It's not the main course. The Eucharist is the main course. Of course, I'm speaking to Catholics. I'm the hippie Catholic, so I am indeed a Catholic. We all have a hunger for the bread and blood of life, and you do not need to spend money to have God. Soften your hearts and let them be ruled by love and your conscience. The Holy Spirit works through your conscience. Remember that. Also work to cultivate a very well-formed conscience. A well-formed conscience can appreciate nuance and reject the black and white sales pitches of fundamentalist political machines. Nuance is alive, like a flowering plant. Because nuance is alive, it can only exist for so long until it perishes. And this is a tragedy, and it can be felt across the world. Fundamentalism and black and white thinking keeps because it's never lived, just as stones have never lived. That's why it's easier to pass down these black and white ideologies to the next generations, because it's easy to pass on things that are made of stone, and those stones are easy to throw. This does not mean that we should give up on nuance. When an individual plant dies, the seed remains. These seeds just need people to search them out, to water them, to help them grow and bear the fruit of a healthy faith. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Please consider supporting me on my Patreon account. As a small creator, I'm currently not monetized, so any donation would help the platform out immensely. I'm also wearing a t-shirt by Seth Gopal Folk Art. He's amazing. I'm gonna put his link to where you can, you could buy his merch in the description box below, because I just love supporting Catholic artists. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for watching again. I am Cassidy. I am the hippie Catholic. God bless.